Is your small business growing? That's the question we address right here at the Grow Your Biz Show. This is the place where I interview strategic entrepreneurs who can help you with the growth of your business through inspiration and information. And I am Paul Madsen, host of the program, and I am very thrilled to be with you for this episode because I am with Alita and Ian McHale.
Yes.
Hi.
Right here at the Infinite 8 Institute.
Yes.
Alita, nice to be here. And they hosted me here at their office. This is a wonderful environment. I will show you some pictures, some snapshots and of the labs and the things that they have going on. You have got a lot going on here.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, thanks for having me on the program.
Yeah, well, thank you for having us.
Well, my pleasure. And we've worked at this to make it happen for a little while, haven't we?
Yes, absolutely.
And it's going to be worth it.
Yep.
So that's great. Well, let's jump right in. What business are you folks in?
Okay. I'll start.
Okay.
Infinite Institute, we're in education. So we're a member-based association, primarily working with commercial drone pilots, also those in the STEM and IT professions, and then also employers. And we're rolling out an apprenticeship this January, and we're looking forward to promoting the profession of commercial drone technology and software development.
Do you agree?
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Tell us, why are you two in? You two are in the business together. Mm-hmm. Tell us why you are in this business.
Cool.
I'd rather you start.
Okay.
And then I can follow up.
All right. Well, my wife almost killed me when I bought a $1,000 drone, and I brought it home, and she didn't see the value so much at first on the technology, but
I do now.
she does now.
Yes, yes.
But also, we were in the business of educational consulting, and so we would write curriculum for organizations, do train the trainer type of deals, and it was our job as consultants to always look over the horizon to see what was coming down that may disrupt education or workforce development. And commercial drone technology seemed like something that, out of all the others that we had researched, such as Bitcoin and blockchain technology, 3D printing, green energy, things of that nature, it seemed like the commercial drone technology was what was right over the horizon. And I feel like we ended up being somewhat correct on that.
So the why is that you chose it because it seemed like one of you named several emerging trends there, of course,
yes.
But it seemed like that one especially was attractive.
Yes.
And education is in both of our hearts. I mean, it's very important for our community to be educated, to make wise decisions about what's coming down the pipeline. And his passion for teaching is just tremendous. And I'm here to support him in any type of way possible, especially when it comes to educating our people. So
Wonderful. Well, then the heart of educators is the bottom line. It sounds like you want
Yes.
to teach, and you research the trend, and you want to educate others in that trend. It sounds like.
Yes, that is correct.
Wonderful. Well, tell us. I mean, I'm sure there's some place. I'm not sure in Omaha, Nebraska, or not, but there are some places that are also doing this. What differentiates your company from those other places?
Well, you have organizations. I know in Kansas, they're doing drone programming. That's a 4-year program. They have a program that's
At the university level, or
yes, at the university level.
Okay.
They also have another one in South Dakota.
Okay.
You have one all the way in London, the London College there. But what we're doing is short-term programming. We're the first organization in the country to create an apprenticeship for commercial drone pilots and commercial drone software development. And so because of that, because we're creating a pipeline straight into the meat and potatoes of the industry, from the software side to developing the hardware components and getting them straight into employment. And so, I have, having a law degree and a bachelor's degree, I understand the benefit of it, but at the same time, I have a lot of student loans, as a result of that. And, our students come through, and we haven't had a student that's had a single dollar of debt that's
Wow.
been able to walk through. And so,
well, that's, I mean, education's great, and you've got a lot of it, but wow, you're getting them. I mean, well, we'll get into the nuts and bolts of the program shortly. Ultimately, you're different. You're telling me, I think, is because it's shorter, more compacted. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yep. So it's shorter, straight to the point, and then like we talked about, we're creating a direct pipeline into the employers so that they can actually, make money and work in their career and get experience while they're going to school. Which is something that's extremely important for students who are trying to make it.
Also, with it being membership based, then they're able to come back at their leisure whenever they would like and be able to still stay in the know of what's going on, still being able to work on the computers that we have here, and be able to get mentoring from whether it be other teachers or
In an ongoing method.
Yep.
And I imagine that's real important since the technology changes by the hour.
Right.
Exactly.
Yes.
And then also it doesn't penalize students that, because life happens and sometimes students go away,
Okay.
and maybe other students may advance during that time,
Sure.
but they don't feel bad because, you're always welcome. Even if you've completed all of your coursework, you can still come back and get some type of entrepreneurial coaching and professional
Sure,
development training.
awesome. Well, got to stay fresh, right?
Exactly.
Wonderful. Well, let's jump into, how we got here. Now we know a little bit about what we have. How did you two get to this point? Where'd you grow up? Where'd you go to school? What's your background stories and all that?
Ladies
you go
first. Yep.
I'm first this time. So I grew up here in Omaha, Nebraska, born and raised on the north side in an impoverished neighborhood. I decided to write a book, kind of a biography to talk about my life between age 16 and about 30, 31 years old. Ups and downs, life choices, better choices as I got older, and that's what brought us together because he had prior wrote a book the year before.
Yep.
And that's what brought us together.
I got to go deeper. How do your two books? You share a publisher or what?
No.
It's so funny.
Self-published? Are these
I'll let her
self-published
tell.
books? Or?
They're that particular.
So mine was through McKinsey. I created a publishing company and then pushed it through our publishing company.
Okay.
And then
my book was
through another
Kudu,
publisher.
Book company, publishing company. It was a Christian book company,
Okay.
and it was just purely the point of him wanting to help market because I was doing my own marketing.
Oh, yeah.
And he
It's
had
tough.
already been there and done that, and so that's what brought us together.
what about the family, the connection?
That was the after we had
So
no
you
idea.
met through the book thing.
We met through the book, and we didn't realize that we both wrote about the same family here in Omaha.
No way.
Yeah.
So we were connected.
What
and
is
didn't
your book
realize
about?
We were connected.
Yeah, mine was a biography as well,
Awesome.
Okay.
autobiography. Yeah, as
About
well.
your family or
About, yeah, and then
Yes.
But your family wasn't your family then. I'm confused.
No, yes.
it was we had similar connections.
Okay.
We ended up talking about the same family.
Okay.
Although we weren't related,
Gotcha.
there were
They're part of your world.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sure.
so
it's a
we
small
were,
town, right?
Yeah, so we're talking about two different worlds and then coming
I gotcha.
together. So
Right.
it was interesting. And then around that time, we of course started talking and fell in love. And as far as that was concerned, around that same time, I ended up quitting my job. I was working at the Urban League at the time.
Okay.
I was working in the field of.
Was that after you graduated from school?
Yep.
Urban League? Okay.
Yep,
So
yep.
tell us about your schooling.
Yep. So I went to Howard.
We skipped you. I'm sorry. You wrote a book, and
That's okay.
that's your background mostly.
Yeah, that's
and
pretty
what
much
brought
my
you there?
background,
Okay.
life experiences.
Like,
That's,
oh, no, you
that's
went to
definitely my bringing to the table. So.
Gotcha. The School of Hard Knocks.
Exactly.
Yeah, I got a graduate degree on that one myself. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then yours.
Yeah, and I went the traditional route. I went to Howard for undergrad, studied political science, then went to law school at the University of Nebraska. College
I'm going
of
to
Law.
interrupt you. This is a story. When did you think you wanted to be an attorney? At what point?
So, in reality, I never wanted to practice.
Okay.
A law degree always was, a stepping stone.
Okay, gotcha.
Towards other things.
Sure.
To be honest, when I went to the first week of going to Howard University, I was actually I was an international business major.
All right.
And then going into law school, having conversations with like my contracts professor, things of that nature, he told me how, like, for example, his son, went into business after getting out of law school.
Sure. It's a great foundation for almost everything.
Absolutely. And then it's awesome too because, dealing with regulations, especially with emerging technologies, when you have to work with congressmen and senators at the state level and the federal level and educate people about, the regulatory framework that should be in place if there's nothing that's in place. And then also creating businesses as an entrepreneur. You know, it's nice to be able to form a business, to not have to call an attorney to, you know, to start.
Well, that's a good background, yeah.
Et cetera.
Be your own.
Your own attorney.
I'll bill myself.
Exactly. And then even, you know, we talked about commercial finance. You know, we've had to do presentations in front of the Security and Exchange Commission, things of that
really?
nature.
Wow.
And so, you know, knowing our
Sure.
stuff legally
Having
definitely,
some, you bet.
yeah,
Okay.
definitely helps.
So I could see that as a background for a lot of things. You bet.
Absolutely.
Tell me about you were working at Urban League in what capacity? Yeah.
So I was in there. I first started doing contracting with them. You know, doing youth and education programming while I was in law school.
Okay.
And then, you know, I wanted to give back. I had a conversation with, you know, my father ended up going to law school as well.
Okay.
Who's deceased now. He passed away when I was 4.
Oh, wow.
But, you know, he went to law school with one of the at the time the only black high school counselor in the state of Nebraska.
Wow, okay.
At North High, Mr. Wiley.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
you know, and although he didn't finish, you know, his first year of law school, you know, they still had a close relationship.
Sure.
And so he told me I should put some time into the community.
Okay.
You know, back then I was headed back to DC. I was going to do some consulting on the East Coast.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, he ended up being right. You know, and so I
Those darn
decided,
school concerts.
yeah, and so I decided to stick around, and you know, the Urban League was a natural area for me to be able to put my talents at use.
And you're writing your marketing your book at this time, or
Yep.
Right, yep.
you got married by that point or not, or
Shortly after that.
yeah,
okay.
right.
Yeah, shortly after that we got married,
Gotcha.
and then I remember, you know, when I actually, you know, quit my job and put my time in, you know, and skydive, so to say.
Sure, yeah.
You know, she was right there. Actually,
bet.
we did a
What did you think of this decision to quit a job and start a business?
I actually supported it like 100%. We were like, let's just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do it. And go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, at the time we were both, you know, our books were doing pretty well.
Yeah.
You know, at
really?
the time,
Okay.
yeah, we were doing speaking gigs at least twice a week.
Yeah.
You know, and we were making good money doing that.
Really? Good.
But we actually did a 8-week, 8-day tour. We did an 8-day tour,
8 city tour.
Really?
8 cities.
Together?
Yeah,
Yes.
together.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah,
What a
like-
package. Yeah.
Yeah, like right after the time that you know, that I ended up quitting our job.
Sure.
And we took our curriculum around the country, worked with different
okay.
agencies. We were in St. Louis.
Didn't know I was with famous authors. That's great.
Yeah, no, we were in St. Louis, Atlanta, Raleigh and Durham,
Awesome.
DC, Chicago and Detroit, and then here in Omaha. And so, you know, we had a great time, but that really set the foundation, you know, for our organization.
Sure. Okay, and then you told me how you got to the idea of drones. Tell me about the early days. You know, you pulled the plug on jobs. Were you working anywhere at the time, or the book, I guess, gave you the
book, yeah.
That was your business. That was your job, right?
There,
Okay.
Yeah. So.
And so you pulled the plug on a job, had the back book stuff going, and tell me how scary it was getting your first space and your first staffer and all these kind of things.
You want to talk about it? Where were you at?
We were at Income.
We were at Income. That was awesome.
Yeah.
You were what? I'm
You can
sorry?
talk about it.
Our first space was at Income.
It's a community.
okay.
It's a community development center.
Right.
North
Off of-
24th or
Off of 30. No, it's actually it's a little south. It's actually off of 31st and Leavenworth.
okay. It's kind of a shared space, incubator space or something.
Yep.
Yeah, it was an awesome space because so many community organizations kind of worked out of there, and they did what was ESL?
Yeah, they did an ESL training.
ESL
People got their
training.
GEDs.
Yeah, there, you know, we had, you know, homeless people come in, we had people,
Okay.
you know, just community members come in, and so
Right.
it was an awesome space. They had a
They'd
garage
loved having
door
you,
that
I'm
was
sure, because
Yeah,
you're
so
kind of a
true.
high tech thing and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So no, it was nice,
That's
and then also shout out to, you know, Income and
Yes.
Christian
Okay,
and Christian
you bet.
Gray.
Christian Gray, yeah.
But
Leslie.
you know, we were able to, you know, really determine the needs of the community,
Right.
especially thinking about the workforce development work that we're doing now.
Right.
You know, we were at the ground level, and also the Omaha Housing Authority has the Park Avenue Towers over there, and so a lot of our constituency, you know, came from that particular environment. And so, but also, you know, we were very immersed in the South Omaha community as well. And so it really was a good time for us to marinate on, you know, what the needs are at the ground level for many of these populations.
Well, tell me about that. I mean, when you said we're going to be in drones, I mean, did you know at the time it was training in a community college of sorts, or did you, I mean, what did you want to do with drones at first, and how did that evolve? And we have to kind of have a brief answer on this one.
Absolutely. I mean, we started out consulting with, you know, secondary institutions, educational institutions, and then, you know, worked with a lot of after-school programs. But we didn't really see it coming to this level until, you know, there was a desire from the community to have longer programming, you know, more in-depth programming, and then it just became natural, you know, for us to go towards the apprenticeship route, which we've been working on for 2 years.
Okay.
And so, you know, going and getting that validated by the U.S. Department of Labor, and then going to the state, Nebraska Department of Education, you know, to get licensed.
Lots of regulatory stuff.
Yeah, lots of.
You see more forms than you want to see, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. lots of red tape. Lots of red tape.
I'm sure. Yeah.
You know, but at the same time, it's, you know, it's good. You know, there has to be some levels of accountability, as opposed to, for example, like the cryptocurrency industry, right? Where there needs to be more regulation.
Well,
you know,
in this area, in this space, you send this bad boy up. You don't want to get in the way of an airplane, obviously, and
Exactly.
so there's lots and lots of rules. And you said you're both commercial pilots, or you?
So
or?
I'm the license. Yep, I'm the
And,
commercial pilot.
are your students? Do they leave the program with the commercial pilot, or
Yes.
how does that work?
They do.
Yep.
Yes, they
For
do.
drone pilot, right?
Yep,
Okay.
So they're a drone pilot, and so, you know, they're able to gain that knowledge. But like we talked about, I think one of the things that is different is our immense focus on the software development side. You know, going deep into artificial intelligence as well.
Oh, wow. Okay.
You know, that's the only way that these things are going to be autonomous. And we also, you know, we also want to educate the public and business leaders to understand that these platforms are really a part of the Internet of Things. You know, thinking about your smart home, thinking about smart cities. It's just one more tool, one more thing that's connected to the internet that can speak to many different devices. And so it's a lot more than just a camera that's flying.
Well, yeah. Tell me about the line of sight thing. I mean, and I know a little, next to nothing about drones, as you can tell. Is it to the point yet where you can send one up and send it 100 miles away to look at a power line somewhere or something? Or
No.
when will it be? Is that based on artificial intelligence?
So right now,
in a nutshell, where's it going?
So right now, legally, you can only go 3 miles.
Okay.
You know, and you can't go beyond line of sight. Even though 3 miles, you really
Yeah,
can't. Yeah,
really
it's
little spot
questionable.
out there.
Yeah, it's really questionable. But you know, they've already had beyond line of sight, you know, testing that's been done and pilots. Google's one of the companies, you know, that has done one most recently, and so it's definitely coming. You know, one of our other focuses is ground-based vehicles. We think that ground-based delivery, autonomous vehicles that might actually
whole driverless thing and all that.
that might actually beat the drones to
And
the
there
punch.
goes a train going by outside, and so you know
Exactly.
that's coming too, right?
Yeah, no.
It's already
In
here,
actuality, there's over on Mars. You're using the same technology,
suppose,
but all you're doing is just extending, you know, the capabilities and things of that nature. But it's all analogous.
Okay. Well, we jumped somehow into the future there, but tell us about that first time you had to pay a rent check at your new office when you outgrew the Incommons. How did that feel?
It felt wonderful because God has continually blessed us in our sacrifices and things. We were founded as a L3C, which.
And what is that?
It's a low profit limited liability company.
And what does that mean different? I mean, than an LLC. I mean, I can figure it out, but just for the viewers, I want you to articulate that.
So low profit essentially, it doesn't limit how much money you can make, but it just lets your clientele know that profitability is on par with impact as well. And so it's a concept, social enterprise
Well,
concept.
your social enterprise. Tell us what social enterprise means.
Actually, he's better at telling about the
Okay,
social
that's fine.
enterprise.
Yeah. So social enterprise, you got your 3 P's. You got people, planet, profit.
Okay.
right? And so for us, you know, we try to be as green as possible. We try to recycle our mess, but at the same time, you know, training and providing services is very people-based. You know, trying to help people transition through this automation climate.
Sure.
And then, you know, also at the same time finding a way to be profitable because, you know, a lot of the equipment that we have is very, very expensive.
Yes.
You know, and at the same time, we do want to provide a beautiful experience for our students who come in, whether it's the space or whether it's just the detail as far as, you know, the hardware that they may be working on and that implementation.
People they don't have these this type of equipment
Right.
available to them when they came from places like where we came
Right.
from North Omaha. We just didn't have those things in impoverished areas, and so when they come here, we want them to definitely have that experience so that they can take that with them, and they're being exposed to. Exposure is huge in the community. So.
Well, tell me about your typical student. I mean, how do they find you? How do they pay for your services? Or are there scholarships or grants or something to help out with that?
Yep.
A little bit of all of
you've
that.
got a lot of expensive stuff around here.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
It's doesn't come cheap. So.
Yeah,
Right.
no, so our students are primarily those that are underemployed, long-term unemployed. We have veterans that come through as well.
Wow.
You know, individuals, you know, when UP laid some people off, we had some people come by, you know, after that. And so, you know, really we're a hub for individuals that are trying to either learn new skills or upgrade their existing skill sets, specifically in these emerging sectors. And so, you know, our students are able to get access to workforce dollars through the U.S. Department of Labor.
Okay.
You know, we're an educational provider for
That requires a whole bunch of
paperwork.
and regulation on your end to
Yes.
get a pre-approved for that.
Yeah. So
Wow.
Yeah. So it's a lot.
I
of,
mean, I've worked for both public and a private college, and I know a little bit about the.
Yes.
That's a lot of work.
Yes,
Just
it is.
to stay ahead of the regulatory and all that. Yeah.
Yes, but it's also, you know, and that's why we've, you know, transitioned from more of the collegiate model to more of an association. It allows us to be more nimble as well.
Okay.
Because,
So your training isn't necessarily credit like a community college.
Exactly.
But it doesn't have to be, does it? It doesn't matter.
Because they get a
You
certificate.
get a certificate.
Right.
But also through the U.S. Department of Labor, they
Okay.
get a certification from the U.S. Department
Well,
of
and
Labor.
that's great because you know the Department of Labor is saying you are a legitimate training
Right.
organization,
Exactly. Right.
and that's all they should need, especially since they know how to run this stuff.
Exactly. And that's the thing too about technology that's different than, you know, many other fields, is that, you know, as long as you know how to do it, right? People also are a little bit more flexible with your background, right?
Sure.
You have a lot of different companies now that aren't requiring 4-year degrees anymore.
Yeah, you know, it's colleges may need to look at their model. I mean, came out of many years of staffing, recruiting, placement, headhunting, and a lot of times it was software development people I worked with in that, or most of the time actually, and. Many times an employer would say, well, tell me what experience, usually it was a he, what experience he has with this language. And, you know, I don't care where, you know, they would rather have 4 years or 2 years of experience with XYZ language than they would, you know, a master's degree in IT. You know, so,
Exactly.
And I'm sure you see. Now, tell us about briefly tell us about some of your students who have graduated and gone on to success. What are some of those glory stories, I call them?
We actually have a couple of students, well, more than a couple of students that actually are entrepreneurs themselves. They've started their own businesses.
They're dronepreneurs.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. 88 Degrees, Fly Transaction.
Yeah, 88 Degrees, they're utilizing it in the sporting industry,
Wow.
you know, creating, you know, algorithms and being able to help coaches and things of that nature.
Awesome.
And then also Fly Transactions is just another quick example, working on delivery drones and rovers.
And these are your graduates.
Yep.
Gone on to form these businesses.
Yep.
Right.
They took a page off your playbook on
Right.
learning and business. And
Yep. And to be honest, you know, a good majority, you know, of our of the students that have come through, a lot of them want to be entrepreneurs. I mean, and that's the interesting
do their own
part.
thing,
And then also the thing is that I think because they understand their value and what they would bring. Just for example, right now in the field of artificial intelligence, you know, if you have less than 1 year of experience, they're making anywhere from $500,000 a year to $1 million a year.
Wow.
You know, to build deep neural networks. And you know, and so a lot of our students, you know, are not trying to follow the route of working for a company for 30 years, et cetera. But I think it's attractive, and we see the apprenticeship being a bridge to that, to where, all right, if I give you all this training, you minimally have to do 3 years, 2.75 years with our organization. And I think that's a fair trade off based on the type of information
Doing
and
what
education.
kind? I mean, serving and teaching? Is it coming back and helping? Is that what you mean?
So what they would do is,
With our organization, what does that mean, I guess?
so for example, suppose you sponsor an apprenticeship. You know, one of our students would come and they would work for you full time, and all their information, all their knowledge, they would apply to your particular business model.
Okay, gotcha.
And so huge, you know, incentives for an employer to be able to have someone with these high, unique, you know, specific skill sets that actually, for example, I mean, think about just a person from a software development standpoint, how many errors and problems they have to solve every single day, you know, but also exposing employers to these various new technologies and how they may potentially disrupt their industries and how the employers can get ahead of the curve.
Wow, there's a lot there. There's a lot to unpack. Unfortunately, we don't have much time. Tell me, Alita, from your standpoint, what advice, you've been through it all, hand in glove with Ian, what advice do you have for a fledgling entrepreneur about making the jump, about getting an idea? I hear a lot of research was done by you two before you jumped into this. What advice in a nutshell do you have for someone who's looking to launch their own thing? And you've seen it. You've helped people launch their own thing.
Definitely. Number one, always stay encouraged. Just like a 2-year-old or a 1-year-old that's learning how to walk, they're going to constantly fall down, get up, fail forward, continue to go on.
Learn, right?
Yes, exactly. Stay on top of your paperwork, your taxes.
Can I hire you?
If you're in it, in a marriage, continue to stay and keep the other person encouraged. Always stay positive.
We'll do another show on working as married people in the same company.
Exactly.
That's about all we have time for right now. So we're going to be wrapping up, and I feel like we've just scratched the surface. To learn more, of course, go to the website, which is
www.infiniteainstitute.com.